that the taxpayers of this province have not been well served by this particular project, and certainly individuals like Bruce here are not being well served by this project. There's some other landowners here also today that many of them in the same boat that Mr. Bolingbroke is in. In the package today you'll see some maps. One of them is of the Tower Road intersection as it was proposed prior to June of 2013. You'll also see another map that is made up of, and that's one that we did up for this news conference, that shows the new route of this bypass, or claimed bypass, and some of the land that's been affected and some of the land transactions that have taken place with these changes. And you will notice also in there some land titles information of individuals with the Long Lakes Investment Company. You will see some information from the Farmland Security Board as to the values of land that it was before this and what's happened to it afterwards. You will see some political donation lists for some of the principals of companies like Long Lake Investments that you can look through. You'll also see in there a letter written by the minister responsible for this monstrosity to the now mayor of White City, Mr. Bruce Evans, a well-known aficionado of the current government, who sat on a committee of eminent folks that came up with a design for what has become known as the Tower Road project. The minister is thanking Mr. Evans, and the map that you see of the Tower Road project, which is this one, which is the one that after much study they'd claimed was the right solution, and that is an interchange on Tower Road. Part of your package also includes a presentation by the 3M Group, who were a consulting firm hired by the province of Saskatchewan when they ran into a bunch of problems with the proposed interchange at Tower Road. Those problems, as is pointed out in the 3M study, arose because certain companies and individuals didn't like that interchange that they had just finished spending so much time, effort, and money on designing. And as you'll see in the 3M documents, they clearly point out that two of the largest businesses in Saskatchewan with very significant political clout didn't like the interchange. And this all came out at a conference in Montreal at the end of 2013, where they were presenting how they had problem solved this whole thing on behalf of the government. The problem solving meant moving Tower Road over 400 meters, going through the middle of a bunch of land that previously had not been included in it at all, and of course the corresponding increases in taxes, and of course the corresponding collateral damage to Mr. Bolingbroke and other people who would not have been affected by the other one. And the most collateral damage in the whole thing is to the taxpayer of Saskatchewan, because when you add up the increased costs here through this whole change of mind is the taxpayer of Saskatchewan, and we believe there's about $200 million here in extra costs. All of you are aware that the PC party over the last year and a half have felt that this has not been money well spent. I mean, this thing has gone from what was a $400 million project to just about $2 billion now, and we still have all kinds of land costs that are not settled, okay? When you have pieces of land over here in this direction that were farmland that we're told would never be part of any city development, that were worth $12,000 an acre, jumped up to $75,000 an acre. When you see service roads being provided to developers free of charge to the taxpayer that other people in this project can't have at any cost, you really have to ask the question, what in the world is going on here with this project? We could have gone around the north end of this city through the industrial heartland of southern Saskatchewan, which is on the north end of Regina, for $1 billion cheaper. The government simply wouldn't do that. They're quite content, change their plans here to satisfy the interests of a few of the Premier's business and political friends. And I think that is a travesty. When we exposed the land trading on the west side of this project, stuff that has not been opened up to the public as far as the view, and we hope that the auditor can do it, but we believe, because of the enormity of the size of the transactions that are taking place here, that there must be a public inquiry done by a judicial body in order to open up all of these costs. When you go from $400 million to $2 billion in a 2-year period of time with a province that is now in deficit, there has to be more answers for what we've seen going on here than are presently being offered. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Bruce here to make a few comments about his home, his property, and what he's facing. Bruce?
Okay, Bruce, what do you want us to know?
Well, I'm just really frustrated with the dealings on my property here. It's not like I want to make millions like I hear some people are making. I just want enough to rebuild, and basically I'm getting half price of what the value is worth.
Were you expropriated, or did you?
Yeah, no, I was expropriated in May.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the consequence here. Yeah, I've kind of held out as long as I can, but you know, now they want it, so it's going to come down, and basically I haven't got enough money to rebuild anywhere. You know, so I don't know what I'm going to do. You know,
when you
lawyers pardon me?
When you say you're being offered less than you feel you deserve, can you just fill us in on why you believe that?
Well, I believe, you know, look at the house. It's you know, it's a big house. I've got insurance on it for $500,000, and they're going to offer me $250 for the house and the shop here. Land prices they've started at $50,000. Okay, I got extra appraisals on it, which cost me money, and now that's up to $100,000. But you know, I understand my neighbors are getting $175,000, so I can't understand why the difference here.
Did you get any answers when you ask?
No. Well, they just say it's agricultural property compared to commercial property. But I've talked to Alan from Super Seamless, and he said it didn't cost much to get the property changed over to commercial. And I've been running a commercial operation out of here. I'm a small contractor since 1983. So basically, part of the land has been commercial. So I just, you know.
What's this experience been like for you?
Well, it's been stressful, yeah, very stressful. I mean, your whole life, you know, you just kind of don't know where you're going to settle. You know, I know where I want to settle, but it's getting there and having the money to get there. You know, I was looking for, you know, retirement years coming up, and you know, it's going to take probably 5 years to get there if I can, with the money I have.
How many acres do you have?
Well, I had 10.67, and now I've got 2.67 less, so about 8 acres. So my horse.
How many are they buying from?
Pardon me?
How many acres are they buying from?
They bought 2.67 out of the 10.76 I had.
So these are about a tiny little slice, giving you next to nothing.
Yeah, and it's a slice off the front here and off the backs too. So
what stay in the house?
Well, till March 1st.
That's the land they bought as your house.
Yeah, the line goes right down by Rick's truck here, across and then over. Yeah, so it just happens it on. And I asked him to, you know, I bought a trailer and put it on the back here, but services are very expensive. I says, well, hook the services up for. No, can't do that. You know, well, why not? I have a house here with services and everything. Why can't you do that? Well, we can't. So that's on me. I got to drill oil, power, gas. I can't afford. So.
When you hear about businessmen making millions of dollars on the other side of town, what do you think?
Well, that frustrates me. I'm not asking to make millions. I'm just asking to allow me to rebuild. Just give me what it's worth and let me get out of here. you know, I don't want to go to court. You know what lawyers cost. It's going to, you know, take a lot of money to do that. So either I rebuild or fight, eh? So I decided to fight. So because it's just not fair. It's just not right. You know, and the taxpayers have to know that. Like, I think this whole thing is way too costly. You know, and where it's going to is there's no need for it to be so close. You know, there's lots of land that way. So.
What is your plan to do with the remaining land?
Well, it's for sale.
Okay, it's for sale.
Yeah, it's for sale. I got to get my horses out here.
Okay.
I mean, they're in between basically two major highways. So I got 28,000 cars going by me a day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew that point was coming to do it, and I thought with this expropriation coming, what a great time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I figured I'd be treated fairly, and no.
Who have you been dealing with? The Highways Ministry or government?
Yeah, it's been Nicole Anderson. She's in charge of the land sales. Eh?
Yeah, for the Highways Ministry?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we've had mediation meetings and we've gotten nowhere. We tried to do this. Like, I got a good friend of mine helping me out, and we've gotten nowhere. Every time we go with some figures and facts, no, we can't do that. So what's the point? Nicole had just phoned me. Maybe we should do another mediation meeting. And you know, I'm talking about the house price and the land price. Is that going to change? Well, no. Well, what's the point of a mediation meeting then? You know, so.
How big is your house? How many square feet?
Well, it's about 2,250 square feet plus the 2-car garage.
So they're offering you a couple hundred for the house, but 100 for the land, or what?
Well, they're offering me $250 for the house. Yeah, and that includes the shop here. That's got to be moved. And they're offering me $200,000 now. Per acre, so it's 2.67 acres, so that's 267,000. So we're at about 500,000, and I think it should be
100,000 per acre, right? Not 200,000 per acre.
100,000, yeah. So basically, we're half price.
They get cherry picked all the way along the line. One of them gets offered one price, one gets offered another price. They pit them against each other because a couple of people, you know, the Hill group of companies doesn't want 67 acres off of that quarter over there. Other people don't want their land as part of the thing. So they'll go and pick on these guys one at a time in order, and the taxpayer's in there to pick up the tab. He gets his house bulldozed, other people get their houses bulldozed, their businesses cut through, all because they don't want to build a bypass that they spent years consulting on and building, okay? At the end of the day, Tower Road now, there's no access to it. There is no way for trucks to go to the industrial heartland of southern Saskatchewan in this current plan. Does that make any sense? I mean, if we're building a bypass from the port of Montreal to the port of Vancouver, then maybe the federal government should be paying for it, not Mr. Bolingbroke and not the rest of us, because that's basically what the plan is right now. We're no Saskatchewan jobs. There's nothing in the clay and the goose poop on the south end of Regina that is going to make any economic sense in a $2 billion project.
So what's going on? You've talked about the global transportation hub deal. Some people making $6 million, $5 million.
$6 million bucks in a day, you know? And that's why the government doesn't seem to want to be forthcoming. We got an election coming up. Wouldn't you think taxpayers in this province would like to know the answers of why people make $6 million bucks in a day? Why his house gets bulldozed at the whim of a sudden change, that the government hires consultants to get them out of the pickle that they're in? Because, you know, I mean, the 3M thing says it isn't even a bypass, okay? We're supposedly building a bypass. It isn't a bypass.
Why is it not a bypass?
Well, look at the 3M document.
Well,
they say it's right up against the city. It makes no sense. If you're going to build a bypass, and they said they presented a plan that is a true bypass. So we're into this whole thing for what? Saskatchewan jobs? Saskatchewan manufacturing? No. It looks like we're into a $2 billion project because the federal government put out an ideological carrot. The Saskatchewan government bit hook, line, and sinker on $200 million. $200 million will not build this pile of dirt that's out here behind us. That's one overpass out of 14. That's the federal government share in this thing, okay? We're on the hook for the rest of it. To do what? Bulldoze his house? Take away their frontage? Bring cars around to some developer's property? Yeah. Other than that, I don't see it.
From what you've learned, what is supposed to go on this land when what is supposed to be built on this land?
This right now?
Yeah.
You've got a fancy wing curve
Okay.
to take you on to #1 Highway East.
Okay.
I would have thought if this thing was that crucial, that those bypasses on the east end, okay, where people have been killed on this highway, would have been the first work that would have been done. Not this thing.
Absolutely.
There's never been an accident here, to my knowledge. There's been accidents at White City. There's been accidents in Balgony. If the taxpayer needed to get at it, if we needed to go into debt like we did last spring, that's where I would be starting.
So do you want all construction to stop? Some construction to stop? Or
I think it would be really appropriate, given where we are, that yes, until we have a judicial inquiry in here, we got an awful pile of money that seems to be spent for what? And I want to know if there was decisions made that people were going to get paid for land because of changes. I want to know what the government knows about those things. And I think Bruce would like to know too.
Yeah.
Well, what explains the discrepancy between what Bruce might be getting and making $6 million in a day?
There is no explanation. There is no reasonable explanation. None. I mean, where in the world is the evaluations that the Premier said he was going to bring forward to justify $6 million in a day? You know, where's the appraisal? It's been 3 weeks now. I haven't seen one. You'd think if they had one, somebody would have drug it out. We're going into an election campaign. I'd want to clear things up a little bit, I would think, before the folks vote. Why Bruce has to go out and get his own appraisal?
Well,
you know?
and in fact, the Premier says that the land speculation on the west side, if they're land speculators, they're not very good at it, because he said that they could have made a lot more money because land prices have skyrocketed in the last few years.
They could have made more.
Yeah.
Wow. Going from 12,000 to 103, that's not a bad kick. So it's like down here. You know, there's guys along here that were asked to settle for almost nothing, and yet down there it's worth 75. Some of those pieces are in court, some of them are at 90. Why didn't we have 3 classifications of land here? You know, we had agricultural, we had industrial, and we had commercial. And why weren't those things, you know, upfronted to people? That isn't the case. It's everybody that can't afford enough legal help or doesn't have enough political clout. Look in the 3M report. They spell it right out. They say significant political clout. Okay? This was presented in Montreal in front of the public. This isn't Rick Swenson's words. That's the government's own consultant.
Is that consultant report new to us today, or has it been floating around for a while?
This thing's been floating around, and it's
Yeah. Okay, just
40 pages here.
Yeah.
Okay? Paid for by the taxpayer of Saskatchewan. Those aren't my words that are in there. Those are the consultants hired by the government. And they were hired to get the government out of their own pickle. Okay? They're the ones that designed the Tower Road intersection the way it was. And all of a sudden they're in a pickle. So they hire these consultants. They have these closed door meetings. He wasn't invited. None of these other guys were invited. They tell us there were so many consultants, so many engineers, so many business people, but the doors are closed. I've never seen the minutes. Nobody has.
How do you think there'll be a judicial inquiry, given that the Premier said that there's nothing wrong here, and in fact the Economy Minister is suing CBC for its story on the global transportation? Like, who would call
I guess it's a free country. He can sue whoever he wants to.
I'm just wondering who would call one, given
somebody
the government
told
says
me
there's
once
no
any
problem.
damn fool can take $200 and go down and file, so I guess we'll see who the fool is. But
who would call a judicial inquiry? Not this
a premier that believed that $2 billion was going to do more than what we've seen so far wouldn't mind opening up the books. Okay? This is 30 years. You and I, our kids and our grandkids are on the hook for this pile of dirt. And I would think that if you're honest and true to what you believe in, that you'd open the books and you wouldn't hedge around on it. And I'm calling for it today. This is the prime time. We got an election coming. This is called accountability. It's called value for money spent. And isn't that what government and politics is all about? There isn't anything else. That's the basis of everything that we do in public life, is accountability and value for money spent. And we're not getting that out of this project. And thank you for coming out this morning.
Can I ask one more question, Rick? You said that construction should stop till this is sorted out. What would you say to the people who have lost friends and relatives in motor vehicle collisions along that stretch?
That's why that pile of dirt should be out there at White City. That's why that pile of dirt should be at Balgony, not here. That's where those accidents were. That's where those deaths were occurring. And that's where, if I were those people, I'd be saying to my government, what in the hell are you doing? This is where the priority is, not here.
So they should just wait it out?
Well, why didn't they start there?
You know, there is work at White City.
Move this equipment. Take this equipment off of here and move it out there and start moving the dirt. Let's get those overpasses built. Let's save lives. Not here. Bulldozing his house isn't going to save any lives. Building an overpass out there will save lives. What the heck's going on?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.